Yo, what is good, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to Knicks Media. This is Richie, and in this video, I'm going to give you guys my Knicks Hawks playoff preview because the New York Knicks are in the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. As we know, we are the 4th seed in the East. We finished 41-31, and we got home court advantage in round 1 of the NBA playoffs, and we'll be going up against the Atlanta Hawks, a team that we beat 3 out of 3 times in the regular season, but that does not mean anything because the playoffs is a completely different animal. The intensity goes up, and we got a lot to break down in this video. So before I hop into it, I just want to mention, if you guys are new to Knicks Media, do not forget to smash that subscribe button. And if you guys want to check me out over on Instagram and Twitter, you guys know where to find me at NYKnicks_media. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please do not forget to thumbs it up. With that being said, let's jump right in. So both the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks finished with the same exact record in the Eastern Conference, 41-31, but the Knicks got the tiebreaker as we beat them 3 times out of 3, as I mentioned earlier on, so the Knicks get home court advantage. This is going to be a very even matchup between two teams that I feel like match up well against each other. I know a lot of Knicks fans, including myself, this is the exact situation we wanted when it comes to the first round of the playoffs. We wanted to avoid the Miami Heat, we wanted to avoid the Milwaukee Bucks, and we wanted to verse the Atlanta Hawks. And that's not a knock on the Atlanta Hawks. That's not saying that the Hawks are a bad team. That's just saying the Knicks match up well against them because there's not one player on the Hawks that I'm concerned that will lock up Julius Randle in particular. They are not that great of a defensive team. They're more of an offensive-minded team that Trae Young goes crazy, and they're very good at rebounding, but they do lack perimeter defense, and Julius Randle averages 37 points per game against the Hawks in the 3 times they played against each other. So that's going to be something to look out for. In this video, I'm going to talk about matchups to watch. How will Julius Randle handle the double teams, because you know he's going to be the focal point of the Atlanta Hawks game plan. Who are some X factors on the Knicks that needs to step up? The defensive game plan against Trae Young, and how the Knicks should really have a defensive game plan in general on the Hawks team besides Trae Young. So let's go right into my matchup to watch. And this is a matchup that a lot of you guys probably won't predict. And that's Clint Capella versus Nerlens Noel. This is probably going to be the most important aspect of the series. Do you want to know why? Clint Capella is the best rebounder in the NBA, and the New York Knicks have been struggling rebounding the ball. We are the best defensive team in the league, but at times when we get a stop, we don't get the complete stop because we don't get the defensive rebound, and we allow them to get second chance points, and that's been a big problem. As great as Nerlens Noel has been this season protecting the rim, he's the only player in the NBA to average 2 blocks and a steal throughout the entire season. He's not the best rebounder, and that is a problem. Taj Gibson does help because I feel like he's way better at getting those boards, but Clint Capella is going to be cleaning up the glass. He's going to get a lot of second chance points. So can Nerlens Noel box him out and make sure they crash the rebounds, because that's been a big concern. That's one thing that I really miss out on Mitchell Robinson. It's unfortunate that Mitch went down with an injury all season long, but hey, we're here this far. Nerlens Noel and Taj Gibson have stepped up perfectly. It doesn't even feel like we're missing out on Mitch, but the one part of Mitchell Robinson's game that we will miss is his rebounding, because that's the biggest concern. Throughout the last couple weeks, we finished 16-4 in our last 20 games. That's incredible. We did survive and got those wins without us getting the rebounds that we should be getting, but in the playoffs is a different animal. Clint Capella is the best rebounder in the entire NBA, so that's something you got to look out for. How is Nerlens Noel going to defend him in the paint? Is he going to be able to block his shots? Is he going to be able to post them up? How is that matchup going to work out? So Clint Capella, Nerlens Noel, look out for that matchup. And then the next thing I want to talk about is, how is Julius Randle going to handle the double teams? This is something that he's used to now because the entire season he was the focal point of the Knicks, so everybody's game planning against Julius Randle, but in the playoffs it's going to be times 5. So how is Julius Randle going to handle it? We know that he matches up very well against the Atlanta Hawks. I mentioned earlier that there's not really one player on the Hawks that I'm concerned about locking him up, and that gives me confidence. Julius Randle averages 37 points per game against the Hawks this season. He has his best games against them because who's up against him? John Collins. And I would give Julius Randle the ball every single time they do not double team him, because Randle can get to his spot, mid-range jump shot, post him up down low, the nice little baby fade away in the paint. He can do bully work on the Atlanta Hawks, but we know that they're going to send double teams. They know that we're not going to let Randle get comfortable. So how is he going to handle it? He needs to learn how to get rid of the ball, and he's done it a lot. The one concern with Randle has definitely been turnovers, so he needs to make sure to clean up those turnovers, and when the double team comes, he needs to make sure that he makes the right read right away. He doesn't hold on to the ball too long, because if you hold on to the ball and the double team comes, you get trapped, and there's nowhere really to go. You got to find the open man. So that's something that Julius Randle is definitely preparing for, and I know the coaching staff is definitely going to be in on Julius Randle saying, hey, they're going to send this at you. You got to be prepared. So I'm not worried about that, but that's something that we need to focus on as fans. How is Julius going to handle those double teams? Because he is officially the #1 option for the Knicks, and defenses are going to hone in on him. And in the playoffs, it's a completely different animal. I have a lot of confidence in Randle completely dominating this series. I really feel like even though the double teams are going to be there, he's going to hit his shots. He shot 50% from three-point land against the Hawks this season in only 3 games. So if he can shoot that well, we're going to win the series. Julius Randle needs to make sure that his shooting is on time and on just looking good, because against the Hawks team, if his shooting is there, if he can knock down the three, if he can knock down those mid-range pull-ups, if he can get to the paint efficiently, Julius Randle needs to be the guy that cannot crumble under pressure and not get too rattled with those double teams. And I think that Randle is going to thrive. I think he's going to show up his first playoff appearance in his career that, yes, we here, I'm Julius Randle, and I'm coming. The best is yet to come for Julius, and this is his time to show up and tell the world that Julius Randle's on his way. He's here now, but they don't know Julius Randle in the playoffs because he's never been there, and we don't know Julius Randle in the playoffs either. So I got a lot of confidence in Randle, and I'm really curious to see his playoff debut. Now, let's get into some X factors. You know, you can bring up a lot of different players, but the one player I'm bringing up is RJ Barrett. And the reason is we know Julius Randle is going to get game planned against, like I mentioned just earlier. They're going to send double teams. So who's the second option for the New York Knicks? That's RJ Barrett. He is the second leading scorer on the Knicks behind Julius Randle. He finished with 17 points per game, I think 17.6 to be exact. He shot 44% from the field, 40% from downtown. He improved in every single statistical category, and this is also RJ Barrett's playoff debut. There's a lot of guys on this team that has not got any playoff experience. The only 2 guys that got a lot are Nerlens Noel has some, Derrick Rose, obviously, Taj Gibson, Reggie Bullock has a couple games under his belt in the playoffs, but RJ Barrett is making his playoff debut. Can he show up? Can he light it up from downtown? Can he be consistent from quarter 1 to quarter 4? Because the one thing about RJ is if he starts off rough, he goes off in the second half. So I'm curious to see, can RJ Barrett get consistent for all 4 quarters? Because if he can really show up and put up, if he can average around 18 to 20 points per game in this series alone and shoot efficiently, play great defense, then we are going to be putting ourselves in a great position to win this game. RJ Barrett averaged, I think, a little over 20 points per game in the 3 games against the Atlanta Hawks this season. It might be 22 points to be exact. So RJ Barrett, there's not really anybody on this Hawks team that I'm scared defensively. The only person that really worries me defensively on the Hawks is Clint Capella down low. So can RJ Barrett get to the rim and finish through contact? We noticed that RJ Barrett's season, his second season, he started off rough, as we know, from downtown, and then he became a sniper out of nowhere. But I also noticed that RJ's been lacking finishing at the rim as we're used to. RJ's known to be a guy that's a slasher. He's crafty going to the rim. He can finish through contact, and he did that. I mean, the last game of the year against the Celtics, he led the team in points. He had a bunch of and ones. There was literally a transition where it was 1-on-4, and he goes up, gets hacked, finishes through contact. He can still do it, but there's some times where he forces up shots in the paint and he's missing them. So hopefully he can get more consistent at the rim, because his shooting is on point so far, and that's just a shadow of his work ethic and the coaching staff and everything that RJ's been doing. So can RJ Barrett step up in the playoffs? Because if Julius Randle is going to be double teamed, he needs to be the guy that steps up and takes a load off of Julius. And the other X factor is the entire New York Knicks bench. Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickley, Alec Burks, Obi Toppin, and Taj Gibson. These 5 guys, this is the offensive part of the Knicks. We're the best defensive team in the league, as we know, but that's our offensive firepower. We know Julius and RJ are the second 1 and 2 leading scorers on the Knicks, but the bench unit is where we get our really good scoring. Alec Burks is a 25-piece waiting to happen off the bench. Derrick Rose, we know what Derrick Rose brings to the table. He can just come in and slow the game down, get to the rim with ease, hit mid-range jumpers, floaters, 3-point shots, create plays for his teammates. Derrick Rose does it all. Can Emmanuel Quickley light it up in the playoffs? That's something that I'm really excited to see. What kind of IQ we're getting, because we noticed Emmanuel Quickley had a very interesting rookie season. There's some games where he literally doesn't miss. He scores 15 points in 11 minutes. And there's some games where he just can't get a shot off and he scores 2 points, if that. So which Emmanuel Quickley are we going to get? We need to get a consistent IQ, and we can't expect him to light it up as a rookie, but we need at least some games, multiple games from Emmanuel quickly to drop like 15 plus points. And then Alec Burks, like I mentioned, he's someone that's probably going to be finishing games, running the point guard. He's going to be slowing things down. He's going to be that shooter from downtown. He's a really big part to that bench unit. And then Obi Toppin and Taj Gibson, I don't really think Obi's going to get a lot of minutes. I mean, he averaged like 10 minutes per game throughout the entire season. So when it comes to playoff time, do not expect Obi Toppin to get a lot of minutes because Randle's going to get every single minute necessary, knowing Thibodeau. And then Taj Gibson, can he be that backup behind Nerlens Noel and clean up the glass? And then another guy that I have not mentioned, which is Reggie Bullock. Reggie Bullock is probably my unsung hero for the New York Knicks this season. The perfect 3-and-D wing that every single championship playoff caliber team needs. Someone that can light it up from downtown and play incredible defense on the perimeter. Reggie Bullock is somebody that is shooting 41% from downtown, and he is our best perimeter defender. So look out for Reggie Bullock. And then the last guy I want to talk about is Frank Ntilikina. Yes, that's right, Frank Ntilikina. He needs minutes, and I don't really care how many minutes he gets. He needs to be on the court in this series for one reason alone: to follow Trae Young around the court. We know that Frank Ntilikina brings to the table is defense, and he also was the highest, has the highest three-point percentage on the entire Knicks roster. He definitely shot the least amount, but he shot like 46% from downtown, which is insane. So Frank Ntilikina, he does not need to run the point. When that's not what I'm at. That's what I'm saying. Frank needs to get minutes, especially in the second half, to hone in on Trae Young, because Trae Young is going to be the guy that's going to be getting the ball. He's going to be drawing fouls. He's going to be lighting it up from downtown. Clint Capella sets hard screens, and Frank Ntilikina is very good at avoiding screens. You cannot be someone that gives Trae Young a little ounce of room, because he's going to pull up in your face. He's going to draw fouls. So that's a really interesting factor. Is Frank Ntilikina going to get minutes? And then the odd man out is Elfrid Payton. So that's a really big discussion right now all over Knicks Twitter and Knicks fans everywhere. Is Elfrid going to be getting minutes? Because he's been struggling for the past 20 games. If you look at his numbers, it's really bad. I mean, he's the only player on the Knicks that has a negative plus-minus throughout the entire season. The Knicks are not a good team when he's the starting point guard. I don't think Thibodeau is going to, break up the rotations, because why break something that's not broken? But if you look at the things, I don't know what he's going to do. Like, when it comes to Elfrid Payton, I hope that he plays well. I hope that if he's on the court, he can get us off to a good start, because he's the starter, and the minutes that he usually gets, 6 minutes in the first quarter, he sits for the first half, and then he gets 6 minutes in the third quarter, and then he sits the rest of the way, and that's a total of 12 minutes. That's usually what he does, but the only person I'm worried about is Elfrid. I'd rather have Frank Ntilikina on the court instead of him because of his defense, but we will see. I really hope Frank gets some minutes. Definitely let me know your thoughts about Frank getting minutes. I know some of you guys hate Frank Ntilikina for whatever reason, but I'm not saying he should be the point guard and getting all the minutes. I'm just saying Frank should be on the floor for following Trae Young everywhere. That's what Frank's value brings to the New York Knicks. Now, what's the defensive game plan going to be against Trae Young? That's a really interesting question. I think Frank Ntilikina is going to be a big answer to that question. I really hope that they understand that they cannot let him go through a screen and get any ounce of room, because Trae Young is going to pull up, and if you play up on him, he's going to blow by you and finish at the rim with a floater, and he's also a guy that loves drawing fouls. So that's something that we really need to hone in on. Is Trae Young is their number one option. We need to make sure that we can just completely shut him down. And then what else we need to focus on defense is locking down their shooters, because the Atlanta Hawks, they're not just Trae Young and Clint Capella. They have a lot of shooters. Bogdanovic, they got Danilo Gallinari, as we know, as Knicks fans, we know him very well coming in off the bench. There's a lot of guys that are sharpshooters. So what we need to do as a Knicks defense is force them to drive into the paint, force them to shoot contested mid-range jump shots, and obviously close in on their three-point shooting, because if they get hot, their offense is really good. The Atlanta Hawks are so good this season simply because of their offense. They're vulnerable on the defensive side of the ball, which gives me confidence of us winning the series. But how are we going to really match up against them defensively when they have a lot of shooters? I feel like we did a great job throughout the season against them, but the playoffs, again, is a different animal. So that's really it for my playoff preview. Definitely let me know what you guys thought of the video and comment your thoughts about what's going to happen against the Atlanta Hawks and the New York Knicks. Is going to be a crazy playoff series. It starts Sunday, May 23rd. It's going to be crazy, guys. I'm going to be going live and doing a lot of content leading up until that day. Let's go Knicks. Let's get this dub. Let's take care of business. This is a playoff series that we could win. Home court advantage. We got around 13,000 fans in the building for the Garden, apparently. Woo! This is going to be crazy, guys. Make sure you smash that like button. Comment down below a Statue of Liberty emoji if you stayed until the end. Let's go, Knicks. New York, we here. Let's go, baby.